The 10 most surprising facts about the Vikings. Discover the truth behind the Viking myths. Were the Vikings really as we imagine them? From their impeccable hygiene to their skills in poetry and exploration, we will reveal facts that challenge the stereotypical images of these iconic northern warriors. Join us on this fascinating historical exploration. Number 10. They did not wear horned helmets. In the misty atmosphere of the 19th century, Romantic Europe was captivated by the mythical figure of the Viking, a fierce and wild warrior directly drawn from the pages of ancient Norse tales. In that climate of fascination, an era of artistic and cultural interpretation was born and endured: the image of Vikings wearing helmets adorned with horns. This dramatic representation, although visually striking, is not supported by any archaeological or historical evidence. Horned helmets, although iconic in operatic art thanks to the influential productions of Richard Wagner, such as the famous The Ring of the Nibelung, were never part of Viking war attire. The reality was much more pragmatic and less ornate. The true Viking helmets were simple, functional, and intended to effectively protect in combat. The persistence of this myth illustrates not only a fascination with embellishing history, but also how errors can take root in the popular consciousness until they are accepted as facts. On the battlefields of Northern Europe, the Vikings, known for their martial ability and combat strategies, used iron helmets that covered the head, leaving the face exposed or partially protected by a mask. These helmets were vital tools in the cruel and often brutal reality of the wars of the time, designed for a clear purpose: survival. Thus, while horned helmets remain a recognizable symbol in popular culture, their true history is a testament to how art can influence and alter our perception of historical past, teaching us the importance of separating fiction from documented reality. Number 9. Not all of them were blonde and blue-eyed. In the cold and vast lands of Scandinavia, the typical image of the Viking is often painted with strokes of blonde hair and blue eyes, a stereotype that has been fueled by numerous cultural representations over the centuries. However, genetic studies have revealed a much more diverse reality. Far from being a homogeneous group, the Vikings exhibited a variety of physical traits, with hair ranging from blonde to red and dark, and eyes that could be blue, green, gray, or brown. This diversity was the result of multiple migratory waves both within and outside of Scandinavia, which also included genetic influences from other European populations. The Vikings, far from being the isolated warriors often imagined, were actually part of a vast fabric of cultural exchange that included trade, exploration, and at times, settlement in distant lands. The monolithic image of the blonde, blue-eyed Viking contrasts notably with the historical evidence showing their rich and complex genealogy. Through their travels and conquests, the Vikings mingled with the cultures of the British Isles, Eastern Europe, and beyond, carrying with them and bringing back not only goods and wealth, but also genetic influences. This intermingling is a reminder that cultural and ethnic identities often transcend borders and simplified stereotypes. Thus, the Viking legacy, far from being a relic of homogeneity, is a vibrant testament to adaptation and change, reflecting a much more intertwined and nuanced history than is often told in popular and romanticized accounts of the past. Number 8. Viking women had more rights than other women of their time. In Viking society, women exercised a degree of autonomy and respect that was notably advanced for their time. Unlike many of their contemporaries in other parts of medieval Europe, Nordic women could own land, manage properties during the absence or death of their husbands, and even participate in trade. This independence was supported by laws that not only allowed Viking women to seek divorce, but also ensured their right to claim their dowry after the dissolution of marriage. These rights reflect a society that, while still patriarchal, recognized the vital role of women in maintaining the home and family economy, offering a legal safety net that many others did not enjoy. Furthermore, in historical accounts and Norse sagas, there are stories of women who, at times, assumed leadership roles and even participated in battles, known as skjaldmo, or shield maidens. These narratives not only underscore the respect for the capacity and agency of women, but also highlight a facet of Viking culture where bravery and personal skills were highly esteemed, regardless of gender. The ability of women to act with considerable authority in various aspects of social and economic life illustrates a complexity in gender norms that challenges many of our modern conceptions of ancient Scandinavia. Through these practices, Viking society provides an intriguing case study on gender roles and women's rights in a historical context, offering valuable lessons about cultural variability in social and legal structure throughout history. Number 7. They were skilled craftsmen. The Vikings, often portrayed in popular imagination as brutal warriors and feared invaders, were also craftsmen of exceptional skill and precision. Their prowess was not limited to the art of war. It extended deeply into the realm of creation, where their abilities as carpenters, blacksmiths, and jewelers shone with a light that traversed the centuries. The longships, for example, are testimonies to their ingenuity in naval carpentry. Designed to be both swift and formidable, these vessels were essential for their transoceanic voyages and lightning raids. These ships, with their characteristic clinker-built hulls and raised prows, were constructed with a precision that allowed the Vikings to navigate both narrow rivers and open seas, illustrating the sophistication of their craftsmanship and engineering knowledge. In addition to their mastery in shipbuilding, the Vikings were renowned for their work in metal and jewelry. Their swords, often adorned with intricate patterns and detailed hilts, were prized for both their functionality and beauty. These warriors also created exquisite jewelry, such as brooches, necklaces, and bracelets, which served not only as personal adornments, but also as signs of status and wealth. The filigree and repoussé techniques they employed revealed a high level of detail and a deep respect for their craft. Through their art, the Vikings left a legacy that transcended war and conquest, highlighting their ability to influence culture and craftsmanship in regions far beyond their Nordic borders, transmitting a heritage of skills and aesthetics that continues to be admired in modernity. Number 6. They practiced complex funeral rituals. In the cultural and spiritual fabric of Viking life, death was not the end, but a transition to a different existence, and their funeral rituals reflected this profound belief in life after death. The Vikings practiced elaborate ceremonies to honor the deceased, grounded in the conviction that the journey after death was as crucial as life itself. These rituals included cremation or burial in ships, which were seen as vehicles to transport the deceased to the afterlife, specifically to Valhalla, the Hall of the Fallen, if they were a distinguished warrior. These ships were laden with personal belongings, weapons, and sometimes even human or animal sacrifices, believing that all of this would be used in the future life. This practice not only reflects the importance of death in Viking culture, but also their respect for the dead, whom they wished to provide everything necessary for their well-being in the afterlife. Funerary mounds, another aspect of their complex rites, were often burial places for the most powerful or respected members of Viking society. These mounds, carefully constructed over ground, served as lasting markers of the landscape, symbolizing the enduring prominence of the individual even after death. In addition to functioning as tombs, these sites were also sacred, used for rituals and gatherings that could reinforce community ties and collective memory. Thus, Viking funeral rituals not only ensured respect and proper preparation for the next realm, but also reaffirmed social roles and community continuity, underscoring how life and death were inextricably connected in the Viking worldview. Number 5. They had a sophisticated legal system. At the heart of Viking society was a remarkably sophisticated legal system that played a crucial role in regulating social conduct and resolving disputes. This system, centered around assemblies known as things, or ings, was much more than a mere gathering. It was a manifestation of communal governance and participatory democracy. In these assemblies, which were regularly held in fixed locations or open fields, free men and women of the Viking community had the right to voice and vote in the creation and modification of laws, as well as in making important judicial decisions. This system not only allowed for conflict resolution but also established norms regulating everything from property and trade to family relationships and succession rights, reflecting a detailed and forward-thinking legal structure for its time. The scope of the Viking legal system also extended to the concept of weregild, or man price, a financial compensation demanded for the murder or injury of a person, serving both to prevent endless revenge and to reaffirm the value of community and human life. This practice underscored a pragmatic and restorative approach to justice, focused on restoring order and social harmony rather than punitive punishment. Viking lawmakers understood the importance of adaptability and fairness in their laws, allowing the system to evolve with society. Thus, the Viking legal system, with its assemblies and codified laws, not only highlights their capacity for organization and governance but also challenges modern perceptions of Vikings as mere raiders, revealing a complex and nuanced society with a deep sense of justice and legality. Number 4. They were accomplished poets. In Viking society, poetry was a highly revered art form, intertwined with the culture and daily life of its people. The Vikings, known as skalds, were poets who not only delighted in courts and halls with their verses but also served as chroniclers and preservers of history and oral tradition. These skalds composed euphonic poems that captured everything from heroic warlike feats to profound reflections on nature and the gods. Their ability to weave words not only reflected their mastery of language and keen observation of life but also served as a tool to immortalize the valor, deeds, and moral principles of their people, thus preserving knowledge and wisdom from generation to generation. This poetic art was not merely decorative but had an essential function in the education and entertainment of Viking society. Poems were frequently used to teach the young about their ancestors, the laws of nature, and societal expectations. Additionally, during the long and dark Nordic winters, poetic tales served as a vital source of recreation and community cohesion, bringing people together around the fire to share stories and lessons. Viking poetry, rich in metaphors and symbolism, not only reflected the intelligence and creativity of these peoples but also offered a glimpse into their complex worldview, where the divine and the human constantly intertwined, showing a more introspective and contemplative aspect of the Vikings that starkly contrasts with the stereotypical image of the brutal warrior. Number 3. They used skis for mobility. The adaptability and ingenuity of the Vikings in their methods of transportation are especially evident in their use of skis. From ancient times, these Nordic peoples developed and perfected the art of skiing, a skill born out of the need to move effectively through the vast and snowy landscapes of Scandinavia. These skis were not mere recreational instruments but essential tools for hunting, trade, and, in times of war, for the rapid mobilization of troops across terrains impassable to those unfamiliar with such techniques. Skis allowed the Vikings to leverage the rigors of winter to their advantage, transforming the challenges of climate and terrain into strategic advantages against their less prepared adversaries. Furthermore, skis also played a role in Viking culture and social life. They were so valued that they are often mentioned in Norse sagas and legends, highlighting their importance not only as tools of survival but also as symbols of skill and resilience. Ski festivals and competitions were common events, where the young and old demonstrated their ability and agility, strengthening community bonds and celebrating their mastery in mastering the elements. Thus, skis in Viking culture were much more than simple artifacts. They were extensions of Nordic identity, intrinsically linked to their way of life and their deep understanding and respect for the surrounding nature. Number 2. Their personal hygiene was remarkably advanced. In contrast to the common image of Vikings as unkempt savages, the reality was that they had surprisingly advanced personal hygiene practices for their time. These Nordic warriors valued cleanliness and body care, which was reflected in their daily customs. They bathed at least once a week, much more frequently than most of their contemporaries in other parts of medieval Europe, and made use of specific tools such as bone combs, tweezers, and ear spoons, which were both practical and symbols of social status. This attention to personal grooming served not only aesthetic or health purposes but was also part of a cultural ritual that emphasized respect for themselves and those around them. In addition to their regular bathing regimen, the Vikings also kept their clothing in a state of cleanliness that was notable for the time. They changed their clothes regularly, which was important for both their comfort and social interaction, where appearance could reflect personal status and honor. These hygienic practices, combined with their use of herbs and plants for cleaning and possibly for medicinal purposes, reveal a side of the Vikings that goes beyond the stereotype of relentless barbarism. This focus on hygiene contributed to their effectiveness not only on the battlefield but also in maintaining an orderly and respectful society, where personal cleanliness was seen as an extension of dignity and civility. Number 1. They were great explorers of the American continent. The Vikings, whose intrepid spirit took them beyond the known confines of Europe, also ventured to explore the vast and mysterious American continent. Around the year 1000 AD, under the bold leadership of Leif Erikson, a group of Vikings set sail from Greenland, crossing the frigid waters of the North Atlantic to reach what is now known as Newfoundland, Canada. This feat makes them some of the earliest recorded Europeans to set foot on American soil, centuries before Christopher Columbus made his famous voyage in 1492. In L'Anse aux Meadows, archaeologists have found evidence of their presence, such as building structures and artifacts attesting to the brief but significant Viking colonization in the New World. This incursion not only demonstrates the skill and bravery of the Vikings as navigators and explorers but also highlights their ability to adapt and handle challenges in unfamiliar environments. Using their sturdy ships, known as nars, suitable for long maritime voyages, they explored and mapped a completely new part of the world for them, interacting with Native American populations. Although their presence in America was temporary and no permanent colonies were established, the legacy of the Vikings as pre-Columbian pioneers highlights a fascinating chapter in the history of human exploration. These voyages not only extended the geographical boundaries of their world but also expanded the horizon of what was possible in cultural interaction and exchange between very distant continents.